Chapter 5 Places, the New Nomads. Every Friday afternoon at 4:30, a tall greying Wall Street executive named Bruce Robe stuffs a mass of papers into his black leather briefcase, takes his coat off the rack outside his office, and departs. The routine has been the same for more than 3 years. First, he rides the elevator 29 floors down to street level. Next, he strides for 10 minutes to the Wall Street heliport. There he boards a helicopter to JFK, transfers then to a Transworld airline jet, settles down for supper, and an hour and 10 minutes later, barring delay, he steps briskly out of the terminal building at the airport in Columbus, Ohio. In 30 more minutes, he reaches his destination. He is home. 4 nights a week, Robe lives at a hotel in Manhattan. The other 3 he spends with his wife and children in Columbus, 500 miles away. Claiming the best of both worlds, a job in a frenetic financial centre of America and a family life in the comparatively tranquil Midwest countryside, he shuttles back and forth some 50,000 miles a year. His case is unusual, but not that unusual. In California, ranch owners fly as much as 120 miles every morning from their homes in the Pacific coast or in the San Bernardino Valley to visit their ranches in the Imperial Valley and then fly back home again at night. One Pennsylvania teenager, son of a peripatetic engineer, jets regularly to an orthodontist in Frankfurt, Germany. A University of Chicago philosopher, Dr. Richard McKeon, commuted 1,000 miles each way once a week for an entire semester in order to teach a series of classes at the New School for Social Research in New York. A young San Franciscoan and his girlfriend in Honolulu see each other every weekend, taking turns at crossing 2,000 miles of Pacific Ocean. And at least one New England matron regularly swoops down on New York to visit her hairdresser. Never in history has distance meant less. Never have man's relationships with place been more numerous, fragile, and temporary. Throughout the advanced technological societies, and particularly among those I have characterised in as the people of the future, commuting, travelling, and regularly relocating one's family have become second nature. Figuratively, we use up places and dispose of them in much the same way that we dispose of Kleenex or beer cans. We are witnessing a historic decline in the significance of place to human life. We are breeding a new race of nomads. A few suspect quite how massive, widespread, and significant their migrations are. The 3 million mile club. In 1914, according to Buckminster Fuller, the typical American averaged about 1,640 miles per year of total travel, counting some 1,300 miles of just plain everyday walking to and fro. This meant that he travelled only about 340 miles per year with the aid of horse or mechanical means. Using this figure as a base, it is possible to estimate that the average American of that period moved a total of 88,565 miles in a lifetime. This is based on a life expectancy of 54 years. Today, by contrast, the average American car owner drives 10,000 miles per year, and he lives longer than his father or grandfather. At 69 years of age, wrote Fuller a few years ago, I am one of a class of several million human beings who, in their lifetimes, have each covered 3 million miles or more than 30 times the total lifetime travel of the 1914 American. The aggregate figures are staggering. In 1967, for instance, 108 million Americans took 360 million trips, involving an overnight stay more than 100 miles from home. These trips alone accounted for 312,000 million passenger miles. Even if we ignore the introduction of fleets of jumbo jets, trucks, cars, trains, subways, and the like, our social investment in mobility is astonishing. Paved roads and streets have been added to the American landscape at the incredible rate of more than 200 miles per day, every single day, for at least the last 20 years. This adds up to 75,000 miles of new streets and roads every year, enough to girdle the globe 3 times. While United States population increased during this period by 38.5%, street and road mileage shot up 100%. Viewed another way, the figures are even more dramatic. Passenger miles travelled within the United States have been increasing at a rate 6 times faster than population for at least 25 years. This revolutionary step up in per capita movement through space is paralleled to greater or lesser degree throughout the most technological nations. Anyone who has watched the rush hour traffic pile up on the once peaceful Strandväg in Stockholm cannot help but be jolted by the sight. In Rotterdam and Amsterdam, streets built as recently as 5 years ago are already horribly jammed. The number of automobiles have multiplied faster than anyone then thought possible. In addition to the increase in everyday movement between one's home and various other nearby points, there is also a phenomenal increase in business and vacation travel involving overnight stays away from home. Nearly 1.5 million Germans will vacation in Spain this summer, and hundreds of thousands of more will populate beaches in Holland and Italy. Sweden annually welcomes more than 1.2 million visitors from non-Scandinavian countries. More than 1 million foreigners visit the United States, while roughly 4 million Americans travel overseas each year. A writer in Le Figaro justifiably refers to gigantic human exchanges. This busy movement of men back and forth over the landscape, and sometimes under it, is one of the identifying characteristics of super-industrial society. By contrast, pre-industrial nations seem congealed, frozen, their populations profoundly attached to a single place. Transportation expert Wilfred Owen talks about the gap between the immobile and the mobile nations. He points out that for Latin America, Africa and Asia to reach the same ratio of road mileage to area that now prevails in the European Economic Community, they would have to pave some 40 million miles of road. This contrast has profound economic consequences, but it also has subtle, largely overlooked cultural and psychological consequences. For migrants, travellers and nomads are not the same kind of people as those who stay put in one place.